SIBO, just looking at the word, is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Got it.
Yes. So in essence, which we'll get to the testing and such and how you would determine that, but there are bacteria present in the small intestine that normally aren't there in an increased amount that is causing symptoms.
There's all kinds of bacteria in the gut that's supposed to be there. That's good bacteria. That's why we have probiotics. But you're talking about stuff that's not supposed to be there or not supposed to be there in the quantities that it's there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's the second part is key because there's going to be some pathogenic bacteria in the small bowel, but it's the amounts that become problematic. So I don't know if you want to keep going with the definition or some numbers, but
sure.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
Yeah, either way. So I would say, like, if we look at even just the current kind of state of the evidence, and to tie it back to what we were just talking about, it's a massively important contributor to IBS. So there's upwards of 60%. Upwards of 60% of IBS is due to SIBO, and so some places you might see 70, in other places you might see 5%. But one of the experts, Dr. Mark Pimentel, a lot of what we're talking about is from his stuff. That's his most recent estimate within like the last few months in some of his trials is near 60%. So it's large. It's not the sole cause of IBS,
sure,
but it's a massive, massive contributor. So what does this end up looking like? It's important to distinguish that it is important that there's an increase in the quantity of bacteria, pathological quantity in the small bowel, but it also has to lead to some symptoms because there are some people who have some overgrowth that are ultimately not symptomatic. So it is tough, but for the most part they are. But it is important to sort of clinically then correlate this.
So if it's not bothering you, don't worry about it.
You may not.
You technically have
know.
SIBO, and that can be where some of why it's not 100%. You technically could have SIBO and have some overgrowth and be positive on a breath test or even an aspirate. I don't know why you would get an aspirate if you didn't have symptoms.
Yeah.
But technically, as they're doing these studies, they are testing asymptomatic people, and like Dante said, yes, you theoretically can have some overgrowth and be SIBO positive, but not have IBS and not have the symptoms.
Okay. All right. So if you're symptomatic, what are we talking about? What does that look like? It's IBS. Mm-hmm. So it could be any variation of IBS.
Yes. So depending on, we'll get to some of the gases and the breath testing and such, but depending on where that leads you, it can manifest as diarrhea, constipation, bloating, abdominal distension, potentially fatty stools, depending on, just the severity.
Yeah.
But yes, it's, it talks, sounds like IBS.
Some people even get weight loss, malabsorption, particularly if it's a little more of a maybe more of a surgical cause or more of a physical cause.
Oh, wow.
You could even go into that realm of things.
Surgical cause. So tell me about I guess there's a lot going on here. So I shouldn't lead.
Center us.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
So the general symptoms are all of the variations of IBS that we're going to see. So it would be constipation or diarrhea. You can have bloating. You can have all those things. That makes sense. So I guess let me back up and go, why am I just now hearing about this? I thought I was pretty up on this sort of thing, and I've never heard that name, or not often prior to this.
It's a good question. It has been around forever. So it's been looked at forever. It's been around for decades. It pops up in studies. But for the most part, it was seen in individuals with these malabsorption issues. So maybe they just had a bowel resection or blind loop, technically is what they call it, where food is essentially skipping a part of the intestines during, its transit out of the body. So it was seen in these more extreme examples. Mm-hmm. So they figured, hey, this is only really causing the whole host of problems, in these more severe cases where there's direct physical potentially damage, diverticulosis and such in the small bowel. But then over time, as we grew more familiar with how the gut microbiome functioned, it just began to reveal itself over time.